Hello, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the history of Carentan and the battles that took place around there, as well as visiting the sites that they happened, and I will explain to you a little bit about what happened. So for those of you who don't know, this is Carentan here. It is at the base of the Carentan Peninsula, and it is in between Utah and Omaha Beach in Normandy. Now, it was the objective of the American 101st Airborne Division to secure Carentan, to link Utah and Omaha Beach, and allow the armored divisions, or the tanks and vehicles from the two beaches to link up and push further inland through Normandy and through Europe. So I'm here at Dead Man's Corner, which is on the road between Carentan and St. Dumont. This place was nicknamed Dead Man's Corner as around June 7th, American tank convoy was coming along here, and the lead tank was knocked out. The tank was left here for several days and had a dead tank commander hanging out of the turret. It was seen as a landmark, and that earned this place the nickname Dead Man's Corner. So, this building here, which is now a museum called Dead Man's Corner Museum, was once a Fallschirmjäger command post and first aid post for the 6th Fallschirmjäger Regiment in Normandy. Now this area is near St. Dumont. It's near where many paratroopers from 3rd Battalion, 506, and 1st and 2nd Battalions of 501st landed. The area saw quite some heavy fighting and was liberated later in Normandy around June 10th, June 11th, June 12th around Carentan. So that's a bit of history of this area. I'm on the first bridge at Purple Heart Lane. Now, this was around June 8th or 9th when the US 101st Airborne Division decided to attack Carentan and link Utah and Omaha Beach together to be able to push the Germans further inland and push through France. Now, this started when the 101st attacked St. Dumont up the road. The task was then given to 3rd Battalion of the 502 to advance along this highway, now known as Purple Heart Lane, all the way into Carentan, which is down that way. Now, various rivers running past this way meant that there were several bridges across these rivers. Now, the fields on either side of the highway had been flooded, so they had to filter through a bottleneck along the road to get into Carentan. And as they got closer, they were subject to German 88mm fire from artillery and mortar fire from the Germans in Carentan. So this is the first bridge at Purple Heart Lane. This is the second bridge across Purple Heart Lane. The first bridge being about 100 meters up there. Now, this bridge is across the Douve River. The second bridge is across the widest part of the river. And back in 1944, the Germans that were defending the area of Carentan blew this bridge to prevent the Allies entering Carentan using this highway here. The engineers that were trying to repair the bridge were taking a bit too long, so the 3rd Battalion of the 502 decided that they needed to go in quicker. So they built a pontoon bridge next to the bridge here, and they went across one by one at night. It took them the whole night to get the whole battalion across. So this is the third bridge along Purple Heart Lane. Starting from St. Dumont, all the way down there to Carentan, just down there. Now, the 3rd Battalion of the 502nd will continue to advance along Purple Heart Lane under intense 88 mortar fire from Carentan to the end of Purple Heart Lane there to that 4th bridge, which I'll explain to you in a second. Now keep in mind that these fields on the right and left here would have been flooded, so the only way to advance was along this highway here, from St. Dumont down to Carentan over there. Now it only takes about a minute maximum to drive from Carentan, a minute or two, drive from Carentan to St. Dumont. But on June 9th, It took 3rd Battalion of the 502nd nearly an entire day to get along this stretch of road. So this is now the 4th and final bridge along Purple Heart Lane. We came from St. Clement up there and into Carentan through here. Now, after almost a day, the soldiers in 3rd Battalion of 502 finally managed to get from St. Clement down to here, which was near the entrance of Carentan. They crossed the 4th bridge, but then they were pushed back by German MG fire from the right over there. So they had to pull back to the other side of the river, but they were in an open position, and they decided they couldn't stay there and they couldn't retreat, so the only way was to go forwards. So Colonel Cole, who was in charge of 3rd Battalion, and Major Stopka, who was second in command, got together and decided that they needed to do a bayonet charge. So the men fixed bayonets and charged the Germans in the machine gun positions down there. So, we're in Carentan, just near Purple Heart Lane. And see that building over there? That was a German machine gun position. And that was firing on the guy from 3rd Battalion 502. There's also another machine gun position in this field over here. There's another machine gun position in this field over here. Now, the guys from 3rd Battalion 502 decided to fix bayonets and charge all the way from the 4th bridge down to here and attack the Germans at the machine gun position. The charge was successfully forced the Germans out. The Americans then took over that position. The Germans regrouped over there, tried to counterattack, but they failed, and the guys from 3rd Battalion 502 held the line. Then they were reinforced by 1st and 2nd Battalions of 502. We're now in the west of Carentan, and this road here is where Easy Company of the 2nd Battalion 506 made their advance into Carentan. Now, their objective was to capture the T-junction down there. They would have made their advance along here, and in 1944 there wouldn't have been many buildings around here. They would have made their advance along this road, and about here, the German MG-42s in that building at the end would have started firing on them. And they jumped to the ditches either side of this road, which aren't here anymore. But there used to be ditches on either side of the road. And when Easy Company made their advance along here, when they were fired upon by the MG-42s, they jumped into the ditches. Winters then came along, and Lieutenant Welsh took 6 guys up behind that building on the left, where everyone else was still in the ditches. Winters, seeing that, was trying to get everyone moving, so he told everyone to get out of the ditches. He even started kicking a few people. Eventually the men got moving. They moved into there, allowed it distraction enough for Welsh and his guys to throw grenades into that building and knock out the German machine guns. Easy Company then moved along and cleared the rest of the street house by house. Remember in Band of Brothers, there's a scene where Lieutenant Welsh is behind a building trying to shoot at the German MG-42. Well, that building was this one right here, firing around this corner at the MG-42s in that building. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Winters and the men were firing on the Germans enough to take their attention away from Welsh and the 6 guys that were here. So Welsh and a few of his guys charged up to that building and threw some grenades into there and knocked out the German machine guns. Easy Company then continued forwards this way into town.